Stop blaming your circumstances. Start building your results. You can make excuses or you can make progress. You can't do both. This line, short, sharp, and powerful, is your wake-up call. Excuses are stories we tell ourselves to stay comfortable, to stay safe, to stay stuck. And we've all told them, I don't have time. It's not the right moment. I'm too tired, too old, too young, too inexperienced. Sound familiar? But here's the truth. Those stories, those excuses, they're lies dressed as logic. They feel good in the moment, but they steal your potential one day at a time. Every excuse you make is a brick in the wall between you and your goals. And that wall, you're building it yourself. Excuses are comforting lies that delay progress. Action is the only cure. Let's sit with that for a moment. Excuses feel warm. They feel safe. They wrap around us like a blanket on a cold morning, telling us it's okay to stay in bed a little longer, to push the goal back another day, to wait for better conditions. But comfort is a master of disguise. It wears the face of reason, the voice of self-care, the tone of logic. But beneath it, fear, doubt, and the quiet whisper that says, maybe you're not good enough. That whisper is a lie. But as long as we keep feeding it with excuses, it grows louder. Excuses are clever. They don't sound like surrender. They sound like planning. They sound like patience. But make no mistake, they are thieves. Thieves of time. Thieves of energy. Thieves of potential. You don't see the damage right away. That's what makes them so dangerous. You tell yourself, tomorrow, and tomorrow turns into next week, next month, next year. One day you look back, and all those tiny delays added up to a life unlived. We make excuses because we fear the discomfort that action brings. It's hard to try and fail. It's painful to push through when you're tired, unsure, or overwhelmed. But here's the truth, no one likes to hear. Discomfort is the price of growth. And the longer you avoid paying it, the more expensive it becomes. The longer you wait to act, the heavier the burden becomes. The more intimidating the first step feels. And yet, that first step is the only way forward. Excuses offer relief. Temporary, fleeting, false relief. They give you a moment of peace, but they leave you with a lifetime of regret. And the cure? Action. Not talk, not planning, not hoping. Action. Because action builds momentum, and momentum builds belief. Every time you act, you prove to yourself that you're capable. You rewrite the story. You weaken the excuse. You get stronger. There is no inspiration in the world that can replace the power of simply doing the thing. Reading books, listening to speeches, setting goals. These are tools, not solutions. They only work when you move. The only cure for the paralysis of excuses is motion, forward, imperfect, relentless motion. Think of it like this. Every excuse you resist is a vote for the future you want. Every action you take is a step closer, and even the smallest step, done with intention, beats the biggest excuse made with passion. People don't succeed because they're smarter, luckier, or more talented. They succeed because they show up, they act, they fall, and they get back up. And while others are still rationalizing their delay, the doers are already miles ahead. The time you spend defending your excuses is time you could spend changing your life. So don't just plan it, don't just wish it, don't just talk about it, do it. Because action is the only cure. Responsibility is the first step toward real change and achievement. Everything begins there. Before the goals, before the plans, before the victories, there's a quiet, often uncomfortable moment where a person decides to stop blaming the world and start owning their choices. That moment, that decision to take responsibility, is the foundation of every transformation. It's not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. In fact, it often feels like loss of excuses, loss of someone else to point the finger at. But in that very moment of ownership, something incredible happens. You get your power back. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing that your life is to a large extent in your hands. It means accepting that while you can't always control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. That distinction is everything, because it's your response, not your circumstances, that defines your future. Some people go through hell and come out stronger. Others face smaller challenges and never recover. The difference is responsibility. One says, I didn't choose this, but I choose what I do next. The other says, this happened to me, and now I'm stuck. Only one of those leads to growth. We live in a world full of distractions, opinions, and noise. Constant messaging that tells us we're victims, that it's someone else's fault, that we should wait for someone to fix it for us. But waiting doesn't change things. Blaming doesn't move the needle. Wishing doesn't create results. Only when you say, this is my life, and I'm responsible for what happens next, do you begin to shift the course of your story. That's when you stop being a passenger and start being the driver. Responsibility demands honesty. It requires you to look at your habits, your choices, your patterns, and admit when they're not working. That's not easy. It's far simpler to blame your schedule, your job, your upbringing, the economy, the weather, your genetics, anything but yourself. But those are surface-level obstacles. The real challenge lies in confronting your own behaviors and deciding to change them. Not because someone told you to, not because you were forced, but because you chose to. That kind of responsibility is rare. It takes maturity, courage, and humility. But it's also freeing. When you take full responsibility, you're no longer at the mercy of what other people do or don't do. You don't wait for motivation. You create discipline. You don't depend on others to validate your path. You walk it anyway. You stop making excuses for why you're not where you want to be, and you start building a way to get there. And here's the beautiful irony. Responsibility, which many people avoid because it feels heavy, actually lightens your load in the long run. When you stop carrying the weight of blame, bitterness, and resentment, you free up space for action. You stop wasting time justifying your inaction, and start using that time to make things better. Responsibility clears your vision. It puts your focus on solutions instead of problems. It turns why me into what now. We've all met people who constantly blame the world for their circumstances. Their energy is always pointed outward, always looking for a reason they can't succeed. And what happens? They stay stuck, because blame is a dead end. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't move you forward. It just feeds your frustration and keeps you exactly where you are. Now contrast that with someone who owns their life. They may still struggle. They may still fall, but they move, they learn, they adapt, they figure things out. Because when you take responsibility, failure isn't final. It's feedback. It's part of the process. You stop fearing it. You start using it. And that's where achievement begins. Not with perfection, but with ownership. There's a story in nearly every great success about a turning point. A moment where the person stopped waiting and started doing. When they stopped wishing someone else would change and decided to change themselves. That moment doesn't always make headlines. But it's always the moment the story really begins. Because once someone takes responsibility, they become unstoppable. They may fall, but they don't stay down. They get up, they adjust, they grow, they achieve. Taking responsibility also shifts your mindset from entitlement to gratitude. When you recognize that you are in control, you stop expecting life to hand you what you want, and start appreciating every opportunity to work for it. You stop complaining about the hard days and start seeing them as part of the privilege of progress. You stop comparing yourself to others and start competing with your own potential. It's not easy. Responsibility means doing the work even when no one's watching. It means showing up when you don't feel like it. It means staying focused when distractions are everywhere. It means staying accountable to your goals, your values, and your commitments, even when it would be easier to let them slide. But if you want real change, if you want real achievement, there is no other path. Because here's the truth. No one owes you success. No one owes you happiness. No one owes you results. Those are earned through effort, sacrifice, and relentless commitment. And it all begins with responsibility. That is the moment everything changes. That is the moment you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming the architect of your future. So if you're waiting for the perfect conditions, stop. If you're waiting for someone to rescue you, stop. If you're waiting for motivation to hit, stop. Look in the mirror. Own your choices. Take responsibility. That is the first step, and it's the most powerful one you'll ever take. Discipline, not motivation, is the driving force behind success. This is one of the hardest truths for people to accept, because motivation feels good. It's exciting. It's emotional. It comes with energy and inspiration, and the kind of rush that makes you believe you can do anything. And in those moments when you're fired up, ready to take on the world, it's easy to act. It's easy to go to the gym, to write the book, to start the project. But motivation is unreliable. It fades. It disappears without warning. It vanishes when things get tough, when you're tired, when life gets inconvenient. And if your success depends on being motivated, then your success is fragile. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It's quiet. It doesn't care if you're in the mood. It doesn't ask how you feel. It simply says, do the work. That's what makes it powerful, because real achievement doesn't happen when you feel like it. It happens when you show up, over and over again, even when you don't. Especially when you don't. Discipline is the habit of doing the right thing, regardless of how you feel in the moment. And that habit, built through repetition and commitment, becomes the foundation of everything great. Think about the people you admire, the athletes, the artists, the entrepreneurs, the leaders. They are not driven by constant bursts of motivation. They are driven by routine, by consistency, by showing up on the days they don't want to. The runner who trains in the rain, the writer who writes through writer's block, the student who studies when everyone else is out having fun. They aren't superheroes. They've just learned to value discipline over feelings, and that's what sets them apart. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the engine. Motivation can get you started, but only discipline will keep you going. And most goals in life are not sprints, they're marathons. They require time, repetition, resilience. They demand that you keep going long after the excitement wears off. If you rely only on motivation, you'll keep quitting and starting over, again and again, chasing that fleeting feeling of being ready. But success doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It rewards those who keep going anyway. Discipline is about structure. It's about systems. It's about building your life in a way that supports your goals, rather than sabotages them. It means making choices ahead of time, and sticking to them. Setting your alarm early, and not hitting snooze. Planning your meals instead of eating whatever is easy. Putting your phone away, and doing the hard work first. These things don't always feel good in the moment, but they create a life that feels good in the long run. And here's something important. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's not about never missing a day, or never making a mistake. It's about consistency over time. It's about returning to your path quickly when you stray. It's not all or nothing, it's always something. Even small disciplined actions, repeated daily, compound into extraordinary results. That's the principle behind books like Atomic Habits. That small improvements, made consistently, matter more than big changes made occasionally. Discipline also builds self-trust. Every time you do what you said you would, even when it's hard, you teach yourself that you can be counted on. You build inner strength, you develop confidence, not from empty affirmations, but from earned evidence. You stop needing external validation, because you know you're doing what needs to be done. That kind of self-respect is powerful. It's not about ego, it's about integrity. And integrity with yourself is the root of lasting success. There will be days when you want to quit. Days when everything feels uphill. Days when no one sees your effort. When progress is invisible. When the results don't match the work you've put in. That's when discipline becomes your anchor. Because discipline says, keep going. Not because it's easy, not because it's fun, but because you committed. Because your word matters. Because the goal matters. We often glorify motivation in our culture. Social media is full of hype, of motivational videos and dramatic speeches. But real progress rarely looks like that. Real progress looks like a tired person lacing up their shoes for the 5th day in a row. It looks like quiet mornings, showing up before anyone else is awake. It looks like turning down distractions, saying no to shortcuts, pushing through when no one is clapping. That's discipline, and it's far more impressive than any one burst of excitement. You can't control how motivated you'll feel tomorrow, but you can control whether you follow through on what you promised today. You can control whether you get up and do the work. That's the power of discipline. It's a decision, not an emotion, not a mood. A decision you make again and again, until it becomes who you are. If you wait for motivation, you'll wait forever. But if you build discipline, you'll build a life. You'll build results that last. You'll build a version of yourself that's strong, reliable and capable of creating real change, not just dreaming about it. So if you're struggling to stay consistent, stop chasing motivation. Build systems, set routines, create habits that make success inevitable. Focus on doing the next right thing, not the perfect thing, not the biggest thing, just the next right thing, and do it again tomorrow, and again the day after that. Because that's how success is made, not in moments of hype, but in hours of discipline, not through feeling inspired, but through being committed. Motivation will get you going. Discipline will get you there.